All right, so just gonna wait a couple minutes. Hopefully, get a couple more people on here, a few more people. Anyway, yeah. So last week, anyway, my name is Michael Hatsis, aka Mikey Bang Bang. Bang include here with y'all at Garnish Music Production, and just jumping into the weekly Garnish live stream. All right, and let's just kind of do a quick review of last week while, wait, maybe a few more people show up. Cool. So yeah, so last week the basic idea was that we want to just try some new things, use some new tools, that sort of thing, right? Basically, as artists, producers, sometimes we get into what we could call the repetition rut, where, we approach things the same. Like every time we go to start a track, we approach things the same and, kind of end up with things that sound very similar. We get kind of boxed into a particular sound, all right, which, has its merits. But sometimes it just kind of limits our creativity just by doing the same thing over and over again, right? So the idea with last week and this week is to just kind of approach things differently, right? So we have these different tools. Last week we looked at the Instant Afro and also the Instant House, okay? And that one right there, okay? And again, these are available with the Max for Live Essentials pack. Okay, you could download that. Should be available right from your packs. Okay, I'll talk more about that, when I'm done with the intro. And again, the basic idea is just to, approach things different. Different input equals different output most of the time, and that's what we're trying to do here. Okay, so what we did is we just used this Instant House, the Instant Afro. It just grabs, well, it just generates house, as the name implies. It just makes some house patterns for us, right? And we have all these different controls on the device that we could change the patterns up, this and that, okay? And then after that, we went in and we recorded the MIDI, okay? So it generates MIDI. We record the MIDI, and then we go through, find pieces we like, find pieces we don't like, kind of mix and match, and come out with something that we like, okay? And again, it for the most part, here's what I came up with on, so this is the Instant House patterns. All right, little slow chill house. Right? So again, nothing that we would not have been able to draw in ourselves or play in ourselves, however you want to look at it. Okay, but again, just I don't know if I would have came up with this by myself, right? Like, sure, I could come up with a house beat, but I kind of like the percussion in there, that kind of stuff. Then we also have the Instant Afro. This is what we came up with. Right? Again, pretty simple. Pretty straightforward. Vibe's nice. I like it. Okay. Yeah. So starting from there. Now, what we want to do is to, once I generated the MIDI, I wanted to record it and then kind of go through, mix and match. If you'd like, check out the last video. It goes through the whole technique. Okay. And what I kind of call this is like mining for gold or digging for gold. Okay, this whole process where we just use these MIDI generators and then just generate a whole bunch of MIDI and then just kind of go through it and just kind of find those gems in there that work, right? Just kind of like mining for gold, right? People, they kind of have an idea of where the gold is at, hopefully, right? So they kind of have an idea where the gold is at, right? They get in there with all their tools, machinery, this and that, and, just dig it up, dig it up, dig it up. and bam, all of a sudden they get this little block, or they'll see a little spark, you know, in the dirt, ground, rock, whatever, and bam, they just get, oh, there it is, there it is. Okay, cool, right? They pick it out. It's all dirty and crusty, so they just go and buff it up. Bam, they have this beautiful, expensive, lucrative piece of gold, right? That's kind of what we're doing here. We're just kind of, you know, starting off. We kind of have an idea what we want to do, house, Afro, dembo, that kind of thing. And then we just go and generate these ideas. Something triggers. It's a little dirty. It's a little rough. And then we just kind of go through and clean it up, right? Just mine it out of the ground or out of this here MIDI clip and keep going. All right, so yeah, so that's the basic gist of things. And let me just check out here what we got. All right, cool. So anyway, yeah, so that's the basic concept. Today we're gonna check out, you know, another thing that fits into this category of, you know, just creative MIDI generation. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna check out the ARP, Ableton's basic ARP, okay, and then we're gonna check out the Mono Sequencer, okay. Probably look into the Mono Sequencer first, okay. Now, so if we want to find this again, we just go to packs, and here we go. Max for Live Essentials, okay, and it's gonna be in Max MIDI Effect, okay, and then you have this beautiful Mono Sequencer. Okay, so I'm just gonna drag that in. Should be, if you don't have it installed already, go to packs, available packs. It should show up there. All right, if not, you could download it from your Ableton account. I will put that in the chat. Oh, look at that, we got Gingy in the building. What's going on, Gingy? Hope all is well. And yeah, so, right, so let's just kind of talk about this thing, what it is, what it does, what it could do for you, okay? So I guess the best thing to do is I'm just going to put in like, yeah, for now, I'll just throw in like a wavetable or something just to get a basic sound going. Later on, I'll probably turn it into a bass line or a lead, something like that, okay? Now, I'm just going to solo this track, okay? And all we got to do is hit play and have an instrument, right? This thing just generates MIDI, so it's just going to be spitting out MIDI, right? And how nice is that sound right off the bat, right? Let's lower it a little bit so it's not too annoying. Okay, so again, all we hear is like, you know, just it's just spitting out MIDI. It's not doing anything really interesting at this point. It's just spitting out, I guess, a C. And it's spitting it out at 16th notes. Okay, so let's just talk about the way this thing works, and then we'll come up with something, and then we will, you know, just kind of mine it for, you know, some interesting stuff. So basically there are a few different sections, okay, and this main window right here is divided up into different things like pitch, right? So we could change the pitch, change the velocity, the octave, duration, length of the note, and we got this repeat section where we can make things stutter or repeat, okay? We'll get more to that later. So this section here is kind of like our transport, okay? And first thing we want to do is set that to sync. Okay, what that's going to do is sync the control of this thing to Live's clock. All right, so it's every time I hit play, it's always going to start from the beginning. If I have it set to free, right, you can see there it just kind of starts where it left off. Right, it's up to you how you want to do that. I just want it to start at the beginning anytime, so I'm just going to turn that thing on right now. Okay, next up we have steps and pulse. Okay, so right now you can hear, if I put on my, I will just put a little drums on here. Right, you can hear we're just going in, and you can hear it's just spitting out 16th notes. Okay, how many 16th notes? Well, it's going to do 16 a bar. Okay, right, you can see here steps is 16. Okay, cool. So I could have it 8 notes. So it's going to be 2 bars spitting out 8 notes. Okay. Now, what if I wanted 1 bar of 8 notes? Well, I'll just take my steps down to 12. I'm sorry, 8. Okay, but I want to go back. You could get it all the way up to 64. That's a little much for me right now. You got dotted, triplets, all that fun stuff. We'll jump into that because, again, that's where the mayhem starts. So, yeah, I'm back to 16th notes, steps 16, right? So I'm just going to get 16 steps in a bar. So it just looks like 1 bar MIDI clip. So it basically looks like this. This is what we're working with right now, right? 1 bar of 16th notes. Okay, cool. And that's cool for now. Down here, we could transpose it. Like if I wanted to spit out lower, right? Like say I wanted to spit out an octave down, I just... It's kind of cool just like that. I don't know. I don't know. I just, yeah. I enjoy too many things, I think. All right, so yeah, so that's like the basics here. I'm just gonna transpose it down. Okay, and here is where we put in the different notes. Okay, right, so you can see if you hover over a note and you start to drag it, it tells you what that note is. Okay, now, and then you also have this down here. Okay, so if you have one of these little blue blocks, that step will play, and if you don't, it's not going to play. So right now we're going to have like every other note play. Cool. All right, so that's how that works. And one thing that's kind of awesome is that, you know, you could set up these different polyrhythms in there, right? So I can have this thing like set up to 4 16th notes, and then just right. So this thing's playing 16, right? This thing loops 16, right? So this thing loops every bar. And this thing's going to loop every quarter note or 4 16th notes. All right. Now you could do stuff like this. So I could do 8. All right. So again, the pattern of notes playing is down here. Okay, but the notes I'm playing is up here. So it's only going to play these C, whatever this is, D, and D sharp. All right. All right, not too bad, not too bad. Cool. So let's extend this out a little bit so it's a little bit more interesting, right? Let's get in there with some extra notes. You can see I'm just putting in these different notes, all right? All right, cool. So let's talk about a couple of other things. Right? Just like the instant house and the instant afro, we have patterns. Okay, so this one's really nice because you just map it up to a knob. Okay, and then you could kind of like jump through the patterns. All right, you could just do it manually as well. All right, so yeah, so I'm starting here, right? So pattern 1 is just automatically in there. Here's pattern 2. You get up to, I believe, 16, 12. Actually 12. All right, so I'm just going to copy pattern 1, go to pattern 2, paste it in. then we could just jump back to pattern 1. All right, so you notice how like when I switched over, there was like a little bit of a hitch, right? It didn't switch over smoothly. All right, so if we turn on quantize, the pattern change is going to be synced to the downbeat. Right, so it'll wait. So the 1 comes back around and, you know, to change the pattern. All right, so let's just go quick, see if there's any questions. All right, cool. So yeah, just moving along. Got a couple patterns in here saved up. All right, so what I want to do now is I kind of like what I have. I'm just gonna duplicate this out actually. I liked that like really staccato, just same notes thing. I'm gonna save that for later, right? And yeah, I'm just gonna kind of continue with what I had. And what I want to do is I want to throw in a like an 808 kind of sound. All right, so gonna get rid of the wavetable and just throwing in a simpler. And let's go here. Let's see, I got some 808s. Let's try this thing. All right, so let's see, this thing is, I believe it's in a C, so we'll just leave it there. Now with this, I got to transpose it up a bit, okay? Because it's a little different. Simpler, when you want to play the original pitch of the sample, you want that to be playing a C3. Okay, so and notice there's a little click, so I'm just gonna you know, increase the attack a little bit on this thing. So just kind of changing things around here. Cool. So let's move around a little bit. Let's talk about some of these other areas. Okay. Now we also have swing. I'm gonna leave that alone for now because I don't remember if there was swing on my drums. I don't know. But yeah, if you want the swing, again, you know, it's there for you. We could also do that later when we record it. All right. So I got the 808 in there. And I have some velocity to volume set up, right? So the velocity is going to affect volume on the instrument. Not that I want it, just want to get into this velocity section. So again, what this does is this is going to send out different velocities, all right? So again, this is velocity for step 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth, all the way up to 16, okay? I'm going to leave that one alone for now. I kind of want everything the same. But just note that you can have different cycles for each of these different tabs, right? So say I want to do something like this. I could do that, right? It's not doing much right now just because of the way I have this set up, but it is there. Cool. So we also have octave, right? So I could have this thing jump octaves instead of just going here, cranking up the pitch an octave, right? I could just have copy this, paste it into pattern 3. Ooh. Cool. And then we also have duration. All right, so duration is like the length of the note, right? So if I want like a long one, I believe that this 808 is very short anyway, so it's not gonna do too much, but yeah, so it's not really doing too much there. Let's try something else. All right, let me try. I'm just gonna rack this up, and just so I have a backup of it. Just looking for a longer. That could work. All right, so there's an F, so I'm gonna go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. I think. I don't know. So that's that one. All right, and again, same thing, like we can have different lengths. All right. Not too interesting. And then finally we have repeat. All right, so what this is gonna do is it's just gonna, instead of having one note in this step, it's gonna have whatever you put in there, right? So for instance, let's just do it so it's pretty, yeah, let's just start with 2. So this note is just gonna do, instead of 1/16 note, it's gonna do 2 32nd notes. So you get those little rolls. All right, cool. So that's kind of these different tabs here. All right, and let's just check out a couple more things. You could set like the length of this graph right here. So again, I just have it set to a bar, and you can have it go backwards. Again, let's just go back to up, right? So up is forwards, down is backwards. I'm gonna copy this, go to pattern 4, and then paste it backwards. Well, I guess you gotta hit paste twice. And I'm gonna set this to backwards. And you can see that all gets stored in the pattern, right? So reverse gets stored in the pattern. And I'm a little off, so let's restart it. Anyway, so yeah, that's like a basic overview of this device. All right, there's just so much fun to be had with this, and chaos as well, because like I said, everything here you can have different patterns. All right, this thing is like, if you're into like 303s, this thing is awesome, right? Because you just kind of go in there and set up your steps, and then you get all these different functions, right? You could tie things together with the duration. All right, cool. So I'm kind of cool with that one right now. And yeah, so I just want to start recording this. All right, so again, come up with something basic, and I'm just going to record it into a MIDI clip. All right, just generating something that's not too fine-tuned, and then just kind of go back in there and, you know, manipulate it. So I think I'm gonna go back to this one. All right, so this was the whatever. I can always change the pitch later. All right, so I'm just gonna make a MIDI clip. I'm sorry, MIDI track, and that's gonna be Command Shift T on Apple and Control Shift T on Windows. All right, let me show my inputs outputs, and I'm gonna record from, which one is this? This is 9 instrument. Let's just clean that up. And grab audio from Mono Sequencer bass. And again, I want post effects. That's kind of the important thing, because basically what I want to do is grab the MIDI after the Mono Sequencer, right? So I want to grab what the Mono Sequencer is putting down, and I just choose the track and post effects. So let's see. So I'm just going to kind of go through, record some stuff. A little bit off here. I could go back in and sort that out. Cool. All right, so again, you could kind of hear that this is a little bit off. It's actually off a quarter note, right? The recording. Don't know why, but easy fix, right? Yeah, some of the Max for Live stuff, you know, it's a little bit experimental, but that's the beauty of it, right? So again, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab this, right? The simpler, toss it here, right? Because I don't need the Mono Sequencer anymore. I already generated all my stuff, so let's turn that off. Okay, and now I have the different MIDI I generated plus the Mono Sequencer. So, right. Cool. So again, what I want to do is, like I said, it's a quarter note off. So I'm sorry, a 16 note off. So I just move it back. All right, and let's bring those drums back in there. All right, and again, from here we could just cool. All right, so let's just bring this down to 2 bars. I'm gonna make a duplicate of it just so I have a backup, and let's go in here and edit this a little bit. All right, so you know, again, it's just a rough idea. Some of it I like, some of it I don't, but now, you know, I have the best of both worlds, right? I have this thing which is just gonna generate some weird stuff, and then this where I could kind of go in and clean it up. Okay, just like, again, you know, we're digging for gold, right? We get that rough piece of gold or precious metal out, and then we could kind of go in and, you know, edit it up. All right, so yeah, first thing I want to do is, again, just kind of go in here, take a listen. All right, and the other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn on the scale. Okay, so I'm gonna go with like C minor, and yeah, so let's just go here. Oops, oh. Let's move that down. Cool. So and let's just start moving stuff around a little bit. Make that a little low. So let's add a couple extra notes. That's a loud note. All right, cool. So, you know, that works good enough for me right now. Last thing I could do is I could go in here and we have all the MPE stuff, right? So this is new in Live 11. All right, we could go in there and edit the pitch per note, which is kind of awesome, right? So I could just go in here. Again, this is the new MPE section. I don't have any MPE controllers. I don't really plan on buying any anytime soon. But this is a big thing for me for programming leads and bass lines and things like that. So basically what we're doing is we're going in here and we are, right, so you got these three boxes and this one is the MPE or multi-polyphonic MIDI or multi-expression MIDI, I don't know. So the beauty is I could just go in here and for each note, right, you see I could just make these slides. Little much. And I could just copy this note. And then this. Nope. I'm gonna get rid of this one. I don't think it sounds too good. Don't want to go overboard with it, right? All right, cool. So yeah, so that's a little bit of you know, cleaning up, and again, also looking at the new polyphonic MIDI editing, right? And again, what that allows us to do is edit certain controls or parameters per note, which again is kind of awesome. Like before that, always was this thing, right? Where if I want to change the pitch, I got to change it for everything in there. All right, so it comes in really handy with chords and stuff like that as well. All right, and that is this tab. All right, so check it out. If you want more on that, let me know. I could do more on that in a future stream. But yeah, the polyphonic MIDI is really cool. All right, so cool. And all right, so that is the Mono Sequencer, okay? And again, you could do it with whatever you want. If you like slicing, chopping stuff up, you could put that before a drum rack, you know, with slices, or simpler with slices. All right, so, you know, pretty fun stuff. Cool. So last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get into the ARP, okay, just the native ARP that comes with Live. So that is just going to be in your basic MIDI effects, and inside there you're just going to see the arpeggiator, okay? And this thing is really fun. I've been using this. I still use this. It's been around forever, and it still does me well. So yeah, I still use it a lot. Okay, so now what is an arpeggiator? Like, what's the whole point of this thing? All right, again, let me just toss in, you know, an instrument just so you could hear where I'm going with this thing. So yeah, we'll just toss in the wavetable. Cool. And just set up like a little square wave, a little bit of filter, that sort of thing. All right, and we'll just put in some notes. All right, and just keep it kind of basic. I just got a C, right? Just a basic C in there. Cool. So again, I'm just sending in a C. Okay, so now what's an ARP? What does it do? Where does it come from? Right, so basically an arpeggio it's just when you take a chord or a note and you play it back rhythmically. That's really all it is, okay? So instead of just playing like a C, which is just like a C, E, G, you know, it's just at the same time, it's going to spit them out rhythmically, okay? Like for instance, let me just do that quick. Very happy sounding. Right, so again, instead of playing them all at once, it's playing them back rhythmically. Okay, now, so yeah, so it's I guess like the history of the ARP in electronic music and synths and sequencers and things like that is really like an interesting one. You got to remember back in the 70s when these synths first came out, you know, it was only one note at a time. Okay. Remember, everything was very expensive in terms of technology back then, right? So you only had one note at a time, one voice on a synth, okay? And people were just like, yo, that's cool, but what else? Like, give us something more we could do with this one voice at a time. And one of the things that stuck was the arpeggiator, okay? And one of the reasons for that, one, is because it's a bit more interesting, right? You know, you just hold down a chord and it spits the one note out at a time rhythmically, right? So again, you kind of get the, if I play this, you kind of get the illusion that we're playing a C, okay? Now the other thing is, if you remember like any big Nintendo fans, things like that, one of the cool things was that if you play an ARP very fast, it kind of just sounds like the chord, okay? So again, if like I said, if you played Nintendo, any of those old school ones, you know, the way they made chords on that was just by a super fast ARP, right? So for instance, right? So again, it's kind of kind of definitely sounds it. Let me get rid of the filter. Right, so that's the basic idea. You know, I'm sure anyone who's played like old school video games kind of is like, oh yeah, that's it. Right? So again, it just kind of gave the illusion when you have these monophonic keyboards that, oh yeah, that's sort of, you know, what it sounds like, or what the chord sounds like. You kind of get that feel, that vibe of the chord, and still only, you know, have to use one voice at a time. All right. Nowadays we don't need to do that. We can, obviously, but we can have a lot more fun with this thing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have these MIDI clips, and I'm just gonna go in here. I don't want to make chords. I'm just gonna like use one of these things. I'm just gonna kind of keep it simple. With let's try like I think like where is it? Yeah, I think like house is pretty like simple. It's just minors. So let's go. I was in C on the other thing, so let's stick with like C minor. And yeah, so I'm just gonna jump or toss in a bunch of these. Cool. All right, so let me lower this a bit so it's not super annoying, but the basic idea is all right, again, video game territory. All right, but we don't have to go down that route. All right, let's just slow it down. All right, again, it sounds very basic. It sounds very, you know, not too much life into it because it's just doing the same thing over and over again. But again, the idea is we want to come up with something, generate that idea, record the MIDI, and then we could kind of go in and edit it. Okay, so doing so, let's go over some of the click. Yeah, sure. So we got the question. You ever use it on click or clap sounds, high percussion? I definitely do. There's actually a really cool trick you could do with the ARP and the velocity where you could make like little fills and flams and stuff like that. Really fun. I do that all the time. I made a device. I forget what it was called, but I made a device like articulations, that kind of thing. So you could do that with the arpeggiator. So yeah, it's really fun. And again, just, you know, trying different things is also fun. So let's go over some of the controls on the ARP while we navigate through and generate these different patterns. Okay, so I'm just gonna stick with this basic one, right? This is just a one with some minors in there. Let's see if there's just like a basic, whatever, that'll work. All right, so it's like a one, what is that, 176? That's a little too much. I just want like a 145 kind of thing. Should probably play the bass line just to see. All right, whatever, that works. Cool. So yeah, so let's go over some of the controls on here and, you know, just try to come up with something at the same time. So let's talk about the two most important things here are the rate and the gate. Okay, so the rate, you can have it synced or you can have it free. Okay, free is kind of fun. You could do like roll expansions and things. Right, stuff like that. Rate is going to be synced to the clock. So right now we're spitting out 16th notes. Okay, and now gate is how long the note is going to be. Okay, so gate is basically, you know, a percentage of your rate. Okay, so if I have a 16% 16 note rate and my gate is 50, I'm going to be spitting out notes that are half that length. So it's going to be spitting out 30-second notes, right? If I have it set to 100, just type that in. If I'm spitting out 100, it's going to be spitting out 16 notes. Right? So pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Let's try like 8 notes. All right, that kind of works for me. All right, so again, rate, how fast, gate is the length of the note. Okay, now we can also change the style. Okay, so right now it's just playing the notes one after the other upward. Okay, we could do all these other interesting things. You could go down. All right, you could hear it's just down and up. Okay, and then you start having more interesting ones like converge, diverge, pinky up, pinky down. Some of these you need more than a certain amount of notes. Like I believe pinky up, pinky down, you need like 4 notes at least. I believe same with converge and diverge. All right, that kind of works. Okay, now, you know, it's pretty basic at this point, right? So once we get to this section, it starts getting a little bit more interesting. Okay, so this section here is so right now all it's doing is playing back the notes that we're telling it to, right? So the first one is like you know, a C minor 9. Okay, so it's only playing these notes back. Okay, but we can have it add notes to it as well. Okay, so what we could do is we could tell it to add 1 extra note, okay, per note that we're sending in. And it's probably easier if I just, again, all right, so let's just go here, keep it simple at first, and just to kind of show you how this works, and then we'll go back to the other thing. All right, so here's the basic setup, okay? And it's just playing the C that I'm telling it to play, all right? We can add more. If I hit steps 1, it's going to add 1 extra note to it, okay? And this one tells you what note it's going to add. So right now it's going to add 1 note, 12 semitones above it, so it's going to add another C to that, right? So we have... I can add 2. Alright, so again, it's just adding 2 more notes, 12 semitones above, and then another 12 semitones above. We could go, just say like a perfect 5th if we're into like, you know, like metal, punk, get some power chords going. Right, so again, I'm just sitting here generating, sending in a C3, and it's adding these extra notes to it, okay? And then now we can play with the rate. And yeah, so that's a basic idea with that. Let me jump back to this for now. Cool. All right, now we can also have it so it stays in. Like if I put some weird notes in here, like a 6, I could use this and it'll make sure that it goes out of the ARP a C minor. Last thing we'll get into for today is we can also, well, maybe we'll get into a little bit more depending on time. Last thing is we also have an offset, right? So right now it's just going to start on, you know, whatever the first note that comes in or the lowest note, okay? We can offset that so it starts on a different note, right? So... So, yeah, I kind of dig that. Let's try. Anyway, let's just go, and I'm just going to record this as well. Okay, this is a 4-bar loop, and I'm just going to set that up. Let's just do ARP. And we want to grab it from the ARP. Same setup as the mono synth. All right, and we're gonna do post effects, and I'm just gonna let it run. Also note that you could, you know, play with the ARP while you're doing this. Probably do that. Anyway, so yeah, so all that'll get recorded in there, right? So cool. So let's go back here, and I'm just gonna option drag this instrument there. Just for the sake of time, I'm gonna use this, you know, basic sawtooth wave. I'm sorry, square wave. And yeah, so let's mute that. Turn this one on. Okay, so I have the MIDI and the instrument. Again, you could throw whatever instrument you want in there. Like, it's up to you. Again, for the sake of time, I'm just using this. Cool. So let's just bring that down. Let's make a copy of this one. And yeah, so let's kind of go in. And again, like I said, it sounds kind of robotic now, right? Like, it's just 8 notes. So let's see what we could do. Let's see if we could kind of move this. All right, setting the grid to 16 notes. So again, just kind of going in and, you know, just going with the vibe, seeing what we come up with. All right, we can also change the length of the note. Add a little velocity to this thing. Let's see, where would, there we go. So velocity, that's already there. Add a little more. Cool. Just keep it moving. Yeah, I'm not too excited off of this. I'll probably just go for a different instrument. Let's see if we have, something else. Maybe I could toss in like a simpler or something. Let's see, simpler. And I don't know what this is. Let's kind of dig that actually. Add a little release. A little better, a little better. All right, so all I did here is just transpose this down a little bit and just EQ'd up the highs. I kind of like the, you know, how it sounds when it's transposed down, but just needs a little bit more high end. I also give a little room for the vocals up top, and also because I could kind of extend, you know, if I put it down an octave. So let's see. Cool. All right, so yeah, that's not bad, right? It's kind of coming along. So yeah, so let's just add a couple more things to it. Okay, just some effects at this point, just to kind of fine tune it. And right, so let's go back in here and check out some of the new effects. Right, so effects are always fun. It's kind of like the spices of audio, right, or production, however you want to look at it. No effects is just gonna be like, you know, you're cooking up some kind of food, no spices, no salt, no paprika, whatever else you're adding in there. It's just gonna be, you know, not too much taste. Same kind of thing with generating or synths, samplers, audio, that kind of thing, right? We have this basic sound, not too interesting. We can add some effects, make it more spicy, tasty. So I got this delay. It's kind of bland. But that's cool. So one of the new ones here is this. In Live 11 is a chorus ensemble. And then we also have the, it's not new, but we also have the pedal. Where is it? Pedal. I'm just going to search for it. This thing is really fun. I like this one a lot. So yeah, let's start with the pedal. I'm actually going to put it after the delay, because I want the delay to be kind of, you know, one of the things that distortion does, this is distortion effect. One of the things distortion does is it just kind of limits dynamics. Okay, it's just a natural compression kind of situation going on with a lot of distortions. Okay, so what's going to happen is that's going to kind of affect the delay in a certain way. So now, at the same time, it's going to add some of the upper harmonics, which... Right, I would go back and play with the bass line. Again, this is just a very basic, quick kind of idea. I didn't even change the chorus. Kind of cool, I guess. I don't know. Let's try the ensemble. Right, so this is, you know, just like a chorus ensemble. Basically what it does is make a bunch of copies of the sound and detune them. Okay, and here is your detune amount. Nope. About vibrato, right? So vibrato is just kind of like a gentle pitch or not gentle pitch modulation, right? Vibrato is like, you know, when you play guitar and you see someone like woo woo, you know, with the you know, bringing the note up and down. That's basically vibrato. So it's just a change in pitch. So let's. Right, it's gonna sound real bad at this point. Bear with me. Right, so here's the speed. And here's your amount. So I'm just cranking the amount so I can kind of time it. That sort of sounds in time. So let's take this down a little bit. Right, super subtle, but I think it just adds a little bit of that like retro kind of feel to it. All right, I remember a good friend of mine would always say, like, a lot of times effects the way you want to use them is you want to not really notice them until you turn it off, right? So you want it subtle, that, you know, it's like, oh, that's a, you know, people aren't in there like, wow, that delay is crazy, or that's a lot of reverb, you know. Just keep it very subtle, and then you notice it when you turn it off. All right, that's like a, you know, one way to use effects. Okay, so, you know, keep it subtle, and then you turn it off, and it's like, oh, that's, you know, something's missing. Right, similar with this delay here, you don't really notice it right off the bat. Right, but you turn it off, and, you know, to me, it's missing a little bit of something. All right. So, yeah. So that's just, you know, some ideas on. So that's just some ideas on what we were doing with the different MIDI generators. All right, and, you know, then just quickly got into some of, you know, some of my favorite effects. I really like this fuzz. Just adds a little bit of like a little effervescence to sounds. Could also add a lot of craziness. We should probably go in there with the drum. Right, with this one it worked particularly well because, remember, I lowered the octave. Okay, so here it is, you know, the octave it started at. All right, I lowered it an octave, and it just got really dark, right? Right, very difficult to hear. So boosted it a little bit here with the EQ, and then again with the pedal, right? Because again, distortion adds higher harmonics to things. All right, so that kind of brings through the, you know, the little bit of highs that are there, kind of accentuates it. All right, so yeah, that's about it for today. Let me see if we got any questions. Cool. So yeah, hope y'all enjoyed. Okay, just a quick recap. We checked out the Mono Sequencer. Okay, generated some bass. Definitely check this out if you're joining late. Okay, and then we look quickly at the ARP, right? Another super fun tool. This one comes with every copy of Live. And, you know, the basic idea again was generate some ideas and then sift through them and, you know, turn those into, you know, some gold nuggets. All right, anyway, thanks for stopping by. Great to see y'all. Hope this was helpful. Definitely be back next week, same time, Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. And again, at Garnish, we got stuff going on all week. So every day of the week, I believe, at 2 p.m. EST, same channel. Definitely check it out. A lot of free wisdom for you. And anyway, so thanks a lot. Hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and take care. Thanks a lot for coming by.